listeners, it's Jana. Welcome back to Grief Out Loud. Some of you may know that I'm an only child, and for a long time, I was the only grandchild too. So there's a lot I don't know or understand about sibling relationships. That's part of what makes this conversation with Leena Magdi so valuable and important, because for Leena, being a sister is pretty much everything. Growing up with her two sisters and younger brother Hamoodi was the foundation for who she is today as a parent, a friend, a daughter, and a sibling. When Hamoodi was killed as a young adult, everything changed for Leena, but not the fact that she was and would always be his older sister. Less than a year after Hamoodi was killed, war broke out in her home country of Sudan, forcing her and her family to flee to Egypt, and adding a whole new level of loss to the grief that she was already carrying. In her new book, Mourning, Leena writes about how grief becomes part of everything. The air that you breathe, the way that you move through the world, the person that you become. Leena and I talk about the invisibility of sibling grief, the power of writing, and the ways that she continues to stay connected to Hamoodi. Okay, here's our conversation. Leena, thank you for making time to be part of Grief Out Loud. I know it is quite late where you are in Egypt right now.
Thank you for having me.
I always like to start with the person and the relationship. And you write so much about your brother Hamoodi in your book, Mourning. And you write a lot about what it meant to be a sister. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what did and what does being Hamoodi's sister mean to you?
Well, first of all, I have two sisters besides him. He's the only brother. So my relationship to him is, relationship of sister to brother, which is different than sister to sister. And not that it's more special, it's just different. And then we're 10 years apart. So I used to joke with my mom before I had my kids that I don't know how I'm gonna love my kids more than I love my brother, and my younger sister who's 15 years younger than me, and Hamoodi's 10. So like being his sister and my younger sister, Summer, being their sister for me, I feel like taught me so much about life. I feel like I grew up being their sister. Like it he writes in one of his poems that he dedicated to me and my sisters, and in one of the lines he says, "You've raised me." But I really feel like he raised me and my other sister, because even now with my sons, there's so many things that like I in ways that I deal with them that I refer back to how I used to deal with Hamoodi when he was little. So he kind of like being his sister infiltrates so many other roles in my life, like me being a mother has me being Hamoodi's sister in it. Me being a sister to my other sisters has me being Hamoodi's sister in it. Um, Even me being a friend has the way I was with him. He was so lighthearted, and he always gave people the benefit of the doubt. He taught me that. He taught me how to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't really know if I could answer that in like one sentence or but I feel like it's just there in so many in every role that I play in my life.
It's just so integral to your identity and how you are in the world and how you relate to other people.
Yeah, you said it. You said it perfectly.
Well, you gave us a little window into what Hamoodi meant and means to you, and a little bit about what he was like. But could you share a bit more? Like, what was he like as a child? What was he like as a young adult?
He was so fun as a child. He was really, really fun. He wanted to play all the time. When he started to get like 8, 9, 10 years old, he got kind of annoying. He had those like annoying little brother things. He didn't have a sibling that was his age, so he wanted me and my sister Sarah to play with him all the time, and we didn't want to. When he started playing video games, he'd want us to just watch him. He knew we weren't going to play with him, so he would be like, "Just come watch me play. Just come watch me play." When they were still in California because they moved back to Sudan before my sister and I did, he used to go around like in the neighborhood and he would look for kids that were his age to play with. He was so friendly. He was the kind of kid that, you know how some kids like to just hang around either kids their age or kids older than them, but when they get around younger kids, they kind of want to feel like, oh, I'm the cool older kid. I'm too cool for you. Like Hamoodi wasn't like that. He liked to play with younger kids and he made them feel like they were cool. And I always thought that was so special about him that he was like that ever since he was little and all the way until he grew up. He had friends that were like 5 years younger than him that he made feel like they were like he would speak to them at their level. He was just really sweet. He was really sweet. He was a really, really sweet kid. And it's really interesting because it's hard for me to remember how he was like his last few years. When he was killed, he was 21. And I feel like because he was killed young, my mind kind of just went back to his very, very young ages, and I'm just kind of stuck there. And it's been 3 years, but I'm still kind of just there, like him as a baby, and him as but like him as an adult, I'm it's still like it got kind of hazy, for me.
That's so common for folks, that sometimes it's like all I can remember is what they were like in their last couple of years, or all I can remember is what they were like as a child. What was going on in your brother's life around the time that he was killed?
He was visiting. He went to MIT, and he was visiting Sudan. So we went to California that summer, early in the summer. As a family, we stayed there for about a month, and then we came back together. He was supposed to go back like the next week or like 4 or 5 days later. He was visiting one of his friends. He was at a friend's house, and they got a call from one of their other friends that something had happened to him at like a family. It's kind of like a family country club type of thing. So they went to go see what was going on with their friend there. And when they got there, the security guard basically pulled out a rifle and started shooting. And three three of them were shot, but he was the only one that died.
What what do you remember about hearing the news that he was shot?
I I remember that whole day. And the news especially, I remember it so clearly because I remember my sister Summer, she had texted me something about Hamoodi's friend, one of the friends that he was with, texted her asking her for my dad's number. And she was she thought it was weird. And usually I'm like, oh, that's weird. Why would he want my dad's number? I didn't think that was weird. I texted her back and I put the phone down. And 2 minutes later, or not even 2 minutes later, I put the phone down and then my mom's phone rang. And I handed my mom the phone and I went in the room to go use the bathroom. And then I heard my mom screaming. And then I came out and she was she was sitting on the couch and I took the phone from her and I was like, Mama, what's wrong? She couldn't say anything. So I just grabbed her and I took the phone from her and it was my dad. And he was just saying, Hamoodi was shot. Hamoodi was killed. And I just put the phone down and I ran and I got my shoes on and I left. I just left the house. And even till now, my mom's like, you didn't wait for me. You didn't wait. You didn't take me, you left me. She actually just brought that up last week. And I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. Um, I don't even, I don't think I understood. I don't even think I understood what he was saying because I didn't know where I was going until I got in the car and I called my dad back and I was like, where are you? Like, what hospital are you in? Yeah, I just went. I just left. Yeah, it was really awful.
So you just had this instinct to go to him wherever he was.
Yeah, and I felt like I needed to be with him. I had to I had to stay with him. Like I remember the I don't know what they were, if they were police or they were I don't know what they were, but they had to search his like body to see if there were like any bullets left or anything like that. And I remember he was in the he was still in the emergency room and there were a lot of people around him and they made everybody leave. And I remember telling them I'm not gonna leave. And I remember thinking, I can't leave him by himself. Like I have to be with him. I have to be with him when they do this. I can't leave him. I have to be with him. And I remember telling him that like I was saying things to him and I felt like he could hear me. I'm sure he could.
And what happened after that?
Um, After that they had to like cover him up. And it really just goes to show you that like we really don't understand death, you know? Like I remember when they were I don't know if they do this in the US or if it's an Islamic custom, but they have to cover the face. Like they have to tie it. They have to cover the whole body and like tie it up here. And I remember when they were doing that, his hair got caught in the knot. And I was telling the guy who was doing it, I was like, "You're hurting him. Undo it. Undo it. You're hurting." And he was looking at me like I was crazy, and I was like, "You need to undo it. You're hurting you undo it." And I made him undo it. So they did that, and then they took him, they had to do an autopsy to determine the exact cause of death or, you know, whatever. And my dad went with him. After that, my sisters were here. They were in Egypt. They had come to Egypt for a vacation, and they had only been gone about a week. After the autopsy, they brought his body back to the house, and we did a prayer. And we were waiting for my sisters before we buried him. My sisters were on their way back. Like they got on the first flight, they came back. So they brought him back to the house. Everybody was, you know, a lot of the family came and in Sudan, and I feel like a lot of communities are like this. A lot of people just come, you know. My sisters came, and right when my sisters came and they saw him and you know, they said goodbye and stuff, we took him to the cemetery.
Oh, Lena, I'm wondering in this moment. I know you've sat with this story in the years since Hamoodi was killed. You've written about it in your book. And I'm just curious what the experience is like in this moment, recalling those kind of early moments after his death.
It's so weird. Like it's crazy. I'm laughing because I don't it's like it just happened, you know? It's like it just happened and it's like I don't think it's something that I don't think it's something you get over at all, you know? And I don't think it's something that even gets easier with over time or with time or anything. I don't think it gets easier. I think maybe you go through phases where maybe you can get better at it, at talking about it. I'm not, honestly, I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know.
So in a sense, it jettisons you right back to the moment, feeling it again,
Yeah,
experiencing it again.
yeah, yeah. And maybe like maybe your brain feels safe enough to open up a little piece because I remember there were times, especially in the early months where I didn't cry at all. And people would sit there and there was so much going on and I could hear so much and see so much and hear other people talk about him and I would be completely not fine. In the inside, I was like dead. But on the outside, I there was no expression of grief like on the outside. And then like a year later, if I just saw something that reminded me of him, I couldn't stop the tears. I just couldn't. No matter how even if it was just a song, you know, if someone said his name, if I anything, that I couldn't stop it. So it's like such a stark difference between that and that. And I don't really know what it is, but I don't know. I think in the beginning I was trying very hard to just hold myself together and quote unquote be strong and yeah.
Well, that leads me to this kind of bigger, broad question of we talked a lot about what it meant and means to you to be a sibling. And then there's this idea of when a sibling dies, there's oftentimes other family members, parents, who are getting the majority of the attention. You know, you mentioned in Sudan, like everybody shows up, the neighbors, the family, the friends. And a lot of times the attention's on parents or grandparents. And the siblings sometimes are a little bit in the background for that. And I wondered what it's been like for you or what you think might stand out as being unique about grieving for a sibling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everyone showed up for my parents, definitely. And they needed, and they still need that. There's no question there. Um, and that's like a blessing that everybody showed up for them and everybody continues to show up for them, you know, which is a huge blessing. My sister and I, people people like not only did not show up, they did the opposite. They were very dismissive of our grief, almost to say, not almost to say, some people explicitly said, get over it, like he's not your son. Some lady was like, what did she say? Something like, like that. Like, she did this, like she shrugged her shoulders. And I was thinking in my head, like, would you make that gesture to my mother who had just lost her son? You wouldn't. But you just did it to us, and that's my brother. You know what I mean? Um, People were very, very dismissive. Um, some people did it, I feel, out of ignorance. Some people did it because they wanted us to show up for our parents, which we were doing. Um, and that's a whole other thing of like, I understand your intention, but this is not the right time. It's not the right delivery. Two things can exist at the same time. I can be grieving my brother and also be there for my parents. My parents weren't like that at all. They were very supportive, but the rest of the people were not. Not everyone, but a lot of people. A lot of people were.
Well, and Lena, one thing I was wondering about is because you grew up mainly in California and then you're living in Sudan when Hamoodi is killed. Did you experience different reactions, specifically around this sibling grief, when you were connecting with people that you knew back in the States in California versus how you were received in your grief in Sudan, or did it feel similar?
I received more, the difference that I received was from his friends, whether they were in Sudan or California, because there's people that I knew from California who were the same. They were dismissive, and they kept saying things like, "Be strong for your parents." And that's something that's very common for people to say, but it's like when you say that to me, what I hear is you don't see my grief, you know. And all the first thing I'm thinking about is my parents. You aren't gonna think about my parents more than me, you know. So when you tell me be strong for my parents, and I'm talking to you about my grief, I hear that you don't see it, you don't take it seriously, you don't, you know. So, but from his friends, and I think it's because they may have received similar reactions because they're friends and not family. And there's always this hierarchy when it comes to loss, and tragedy of like whose tragedy is worse and who has it worse. People like to compare. And I think that belittles this everybody's situation.
So his friends were really the community that could acknowledge and validate the
Yeah.
the weight and the intensity of your grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did your brother's death shift your perspective on life, death, the world? No small question.
Oh, yeah, that's the easiest question so far. Like, we should have started with that one. Um, I didn't used to think about death at all. My sister, Sarah, she's a Scorpio. She thinks about death all the time. I never thought about death. I never visited the cemetery. I used to be scared of going to the cemetery. Both my grandfathers had died before my brother, and my uncle died of ALS. I never ever went to go see them in the cemetery. I would never visit them. I was scared to go to the cemetery. And then after my brother died, it was the complete opposite. I wanted to go see him all the time, all the time. I wanted to visit him all the time. And I thought about, or I still do, I think about death all the time, constantly. And I don't have like a fear really of dying. My fear really isn't of death. It's just kind of the timing of death. And I think that's related to because he died at a young age. So I have that fear of the time, but not really of death. So it did like a 180 for me.
What would you do when you would go visit where he was buried?
I would like lay down. Honestly, that's what I would do. I would like lay down or sit. I would read some Quran. I used to bring his cologne. I had it, and so I'd bring a water bottle, and I would put little drops of his cologne. I'd spray. If so, I would spray it until it ran out a little bit. So then I would put little drops in the water bottle and shake it, and then I would sprinkle it over his grave. And then I would just talk to him. Yeah.
Another layer of your story is that less than a year after your brother was killed, war broke out in Sudan and your family had to flee to Egypt. And during that journey, your family experienced another death. What would you want to share just about that experience?
Yeah. So my grandmother died. My dad's mom, she died on the bus when we got to we so there was two border crossings to get to Egypt. One is Haifa, which is it's a city, and then one is Ergin. And Ergin is just it's just a border crossing. It's in the middle of the desert. And we went through Ergin because most of the people that left before us, they went through Ergin and they were like, it's fairly easy. We By the time we got there, there were so many other buses. It was very, we were stuck in the same spot for 4 days, and it's the desert. It's so hot in the day. It's so cold at night. We weren't prepared for all of that. We didn't think that it would be a days long trip. We thought it would be a day. My grandmother died there. It was surreal, honestly. It was just really surreal. I didn't really believe it when it happened. It was one of those things that's like, how is this real? How, you know what I mean? How is this real? So we had to take her back to the nearest city from the border crossing, which was 4 hours away, to bury her. And then we buried her. And then, or my dad did, me and my sisters didn't make it in time. Then we went to Hadfa, the other border crossing, to cross. So I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't even think I've really processed that. The whole trip was so difficult, and it just took so much physically and mentally. And I kind of just blocked it out after we got here. So much so that when I remember when I started seeing a therapist online when I got to Egypt, and I forgot to tell her about the trip and that we lost my grandmother on the way. I forgot. That was the biggest thing that had just happened, you know, and it just, you know, yeah,
It's like already something so stressful and intense and heartbreaking and scary. And then to have a family member die in the midst of that, it makes total sense to me that your entire system would have been overloaded.
yeah, yeah. Like we kind of we just wanted to get somewhere safe. That's really all we wanted. We just wanted to get somewhere safe. And then when we did, I feel like we still didn't fully believe that we were safe. You know, that we all had like a physical reaction. Like we had like I remember I'd close my eyes and I would shake physically, like I would shake, you know, when I close my eyes. Um, yeah,
Well, and I'm imagining each of you going into that experience already carrying the grief and the trauma of your brother's death. And then into the, like to just add on to that, the intensifying experience of that.
yeah, yeah,
It also, you talk about this in your book, Morning Air, of how hard it was then to leave your brother behind in Sudan, that he was buried there. And I just wonder, yeah, how have you been sitting with that?
yeah. That was the first thought that came in my head when everything happened in Sudan. People started to leave right away. We didn't leave right away. We left 10 days later. My first thought was because I remember I told you I was going to see him all the time. And I was like, how are we gonna take him? How are we gonna take him with us? You know, we can't leave him. You know, we can't I felt like we were leaving him, you know, if we left. And then there was a part of me that was like, well then if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die anyway. I might as well die here. You know, it's fine. It's okay. I'll stay. I don't have to leave. And to be completely honest with you, if I didn't have my kids, I wouldn't have tried. I don't think I would have tried to leave if I didn't have if it were if I didn't have my kids. I had this like feeling of if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, you know, whether I leave or not. And I want to be here with him. I don't want to leave him. And it sounds crazy and it sounds so absurd, but that's how it felt. But I had my kids, you know, and I was like, they don't deserve this. They need to be safe. I need to protect them. So yeah, so I mean, they were protecting me.
And they were really your motivation to
They
to
were.
make that escape.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you stay connected to Hamoodi now that you are in a different country than where he's buried?
Okay, I'm gonna sound so crazy, but I talk to him so much. I talk to him all the time. Like before I go to sleep, I talk to him. I talk to him in the morning, and I always ask for signs. Like I ask for signs like if you hear me, send me, like a white butterfly, and I'll see a white butterfly or a few of them, and there's this bird that always comes in our backyard in the morning when we're all sitting together. If we're not all sitting together, I know it sounds crazy, but I swear to you, I swear, when we're all sitting together, that bird comes and it's just like walking around the backyard, and I think it's him. But like I see him, I see him in so many different things. And like, I don't know, I truly, truly, truly believe that his soul is everywhere, that souls are connected. He transitioned, that like after death, there's another life, and his soul is roaming, and he hears me because I hear it. And there's so many things that happen that are just weird coincidences. Like I'll be struggling with something, and then his one of his friends, this is actually something that happened. I was struggling with something, and one of his friends randomly texted me a conversation that they had back in 2018. She was like, I don't know why, I just had a feeling I should send you this conversation. And in the conversation was something that was exactly what I needed to help me with what I was. And the thing I was struggling with wasn't something personal, it was something I needed for work. And I was like, thank you, Hamoodi. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like we get attached to places and things like that, but things are so much bigger than that. I would love to go visit him at his grave. I would love to. But he's not there. He's not just there. He's everywhere.
Mm. So he's continued to find you.
Yes,
Mm.
yeah.
Did you talk with him about this upcoming conversation for Grief Out Loud?
Are you kidding? And I'm gonna have a recap with him after.
I'll be curious to hear what he has to say about the conversation. We on this show we focus so much on the grief of having a person die. And then there's also these other levels of grief, of grieving for a country or a culture or even just a sense of home. And what do you think is important for people to understand about that type of grief?
Yeah, I think that kind of grief is really difficult to understand because when you are grieving a home, you're also trying to adapt to a new home and usually adapt to a different culture, even if it's a similar culture to the one that you're in.
Mm.
There's always minor differences or things like that. I think we should try to offer grace to people, to each other in general, but especially people that are not live that don't have a home to go back to, or are living outside of their home, because there's always this feeling of not belonging and also like a lack of support, like I don't have anything to go back to, you know like what, like if you, like for example, if you're a teenager and you get kicked out of the house and you have all that anger and all that hurt inside of you and that feeling of like betrayal and that fear, and you're like out on the street and you're angry, or like you go stay at a friend's house and you do something differently than they would do at their house, and then they get really mad at you for it, but you're just trying to figure it out because it's different than how you would do it at your house, you know, but they get mad and you're like, but you don't, what you're not understanding is, you know, and then they get angry and then you get scared. What if they kick me out and I don't have a home to go back to? And it's that kind of, there's so many layers to it. There's so much fear, you know? It's like that grief has fear. There's so much fear and there's anger, but more than the anger, there's fear. And there's obviously sadness that comes with the grief, but it's fear because it's like, where am I gonna go? And you're trying to make home everywhere, but if you don't like so much of well-being isn't just individual, it's community. So the community that you're in, if they aren't welcoming, it doesn't matter what you do. So just offering one another grace and understanding, you know, and trying to understand, you know, how we can relate to each other because we can all relate to each other. You know, like there's differences in culture and all of that, but there are so many similarities. I think that part is really, really important.
Well, and so appreciating the point you made of that type of grief, grieving for a country or culture or just that sense of home comes with the fear of additional losses. Like, what else am I going to lose in this moment? And I don't have my safety net or my home to go back to.
Yeah.
Speaking of grief, what has been helpful for you in your grief over grieving your brother, Hamoodi, grieving your country?
Writing about it for sure. For sure. Writing about it, I'm very in my head a lot about everything. Like I get in my head. So writing about it helped me get out of my head, but it didn't really help me acknowledge like my emotions. It just helped me write them and get clear my head because my head was just so condensed, you know? So when I writing helped clear my head, and then once my head was clear, I started feeling everything. And I think that's why I started crying all the time. Um, Writing helped me clear my head, and then talking about it with people that I trusted that actually saw me, you know, and my grief. Not people that just anyone, but you know, people that are close to me and understood me, helped me. And honestly, like prayer helped me, meditation, things that were like, and things that were like physical, like with my body, like doing, like working out, like getting thing, moving my body, you know. Like it sounds so basic, but it really is true. Like you have to continue to move because when you sit there, grief is so heavy and it really it can feel physical, you know, and you sit with it, it'll get heavier and heavier and heavier. And sometimes you do need to sit with it, but you also need it to move through you. It's not gonna go anywhere, you know. Like, but you need it to move, you know.
Well, that makes me wonder about the title of your book, Mourning Air, Mourning. I couldn't spell that for a second in my head. And I was just thinking about what you said of like, grief isn't going to go, like, it's not going to leave, but it helps to move it. And I think about that with air, right? Like, ideally, the air's not disappearing, it's still there, but we move through the air. The air moves around us. So, how did you land on your title?
Yeah, okay, it's funny story. I, I was thinking about that idea of how like grief changes everything. You know, it changes your entire life, even the things that you might not even notice. They're still touched by grief. And it changes the way you view things. It changes the way you relate to people. It changes the way people relate to you. It's like this thing, like a fog, you know, but not really a fog because like you feel like you're seeing things clearly. Like my chapters are titled the like first breath, second breath, and that was because I wanted to structure it in a way that felt like you were taking breaths, and as you went through the book, you kind of like calming breaths, like the first breath is the hardest. That's why in the book, the first breath, honesty, like has all those stories, the difficult ones. And then I wanted it to be like meditative breaths, as you get to the last ones, you're a bit calmer. So then I was like, oh, what if I title it I didn't come up with mourning right away. I was thinking grief, along grief. And then I was like, I can't just do grief, like grief, breath, no, exhale, no. I was playing around with words and then I was like, oh, mourning. Mourning is great. And then I was like, morning breath. And I was like, oh no, 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 that's not gonna work. And then from breath, I was like, oh, morning air. Okay. I got breath, I got air from breath. And then I was like, that's perfect because that's what it is. I got it from breath
Mm.
because I wanted to talk about the breath, you know. But then when I thought about it, I was like, that is what I'm talking about because it is the air around you that changes. It changes everything about you. It changes everything in your life. It becomes tinged by grief. And I don't want to call it a dark cloud because I don't think of it as a dark cloud. I don't think of grief as a dark cloud at all because I think it's like it's an expression of your love. If you didn't love that person or that place or whatever it is, then you wouldn't grieve it. So why would it be a dark cloud? But it's just it becomes the air around you. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing. Like what you're remember it's remembrance of that person, of that love that you have for that person. Like that grief is their absence.
Mm. And that we continue to inhale and exhale that absence the rest of our lives as
Yeah.
well. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Leena, as we come to the end of our conversation, I know there's going to be people listening who want to keep having this conversation with you and just by engaging kind of with your work and how you're out there in the world. So where would you send listeners if they want to know more about you and more about your book, Mourning Air?
They could definitely go to my Instagram page, which is x Leena Magdi. That's LeeNaMagdi and or TikTok, which is Leena Magdi X. And Morning Air is available on Amazon everywhere, at thedreamworkcollective.com, at Barnes and Nobles, all the places. Yeah. It's on audio, Apple Audio.
And the audiobook is your voice. So that's one way listeners continue to hear from you, as I got to as I was getting ready for this conversation. Well, Leena, thank you for taking time to have this interview conversation with me for Grief Out Loud, for your book, Mourning Air, for everything you so openly shared about Hamoodi, your brother, and the grief of your country and just your whole story today. So yeah, feeling really grateful and thankful.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure. It really was. It's such a beautiful conversation.
Well, thanks again, Leena. And listeners, I say this to you each and every time, but thank you for being part of our show, for sharing episodes with people who you think might be interested or supported by the conversations that we're having here. I always love to hear from you. If you want to reach out to me directly, it's griefoutloud@dougy.org. So that's DOUGY.org. It's our main website where you can find all of our information about our local programming, our free downloadable resources like tip sheets and activity sheets, and of course, each and every episode of Grief Out Loud. Always excited to share that the podcast is sponsored in part by the Chester Stephan Endowment Fund. Grief Out Loud is a production of Dougy Center, the National Grief Center for Children and Families in Portland, Oregon. Thanks again for listening. We hope you'll join us again next time.